Hell yes, back once again with a determination that I will post a record of report on my little farm, even if it's my only video for the year, given that the kind of year I've had. Hard to describe. Tumultuous. But I won't dwell on the grim political details. These reports are to track a record of how this place has been developing, but I can't really avoid explaining that most of what has changed around here has been born of the escalating battles I would not back down from. So if you follow on and connect the dots from what I was saying in the report that I did last Christmas, at that time I felt confident in the direction I was headed in creating a community here because I had enormous confidence in how the COVID situation signaled how well I anticipated the potential I could offer here. But I did not recognize how quickly I would slam head first into the limits of trying to manage the situation, coming into conflicts. Issues I was certainly aware of. I just had no idea I was going to bring it all down on my head at once this year, but that I was absolutely ready to back myself and make the plays as it all flew very thick and fast. The goal itself has not changed, but what's changed in my approach? Well, I am confident as ever to keep pushing towards a small community, but I see where I need to step back and be more ready to react to the issues that are going to come up, whether it's about managing the property and environmental factors or managing the people and the social factors. I need to create more room to distance myself from getting entangled here repeatedly over the long term. It's a familiar problem in running a business. It invades your whole life. This is why I decided to rent out my house, which gives you a chance to have a quick look at it as I found it. Renting out my whole house is a strategy to gain some leverage, the most valuable part of the property, so that it's producing more income, giving me more options to develop the property further or lean out towards other projects in the inevitable times where things are getting uncertain and it's best for me to stop pushing so hard. So I need to be aware of how to pace things and have the choice to let things just simmer down. It's about flow, reading the signals. Sometimes it's right to push hard and squeeze out the gains, and sometimes you really just ought to just let things sit. This year I kept pushing and shoving. Initially it was confidence, but eventually even I started getting frustrated that lockdown was dragging on, and I'd really like to spend some more time back in the former USSR and Asia, getting my creative projects off the ground. So renting my house out gives me more freedom there, but this connects all to a lot of what I was discussing when I did my minimalist diary series. When I was lurking over in the barn there, I have got all my stuff into the garage here, where I have set up my bat cave, and I got a storage unit in Hamilton also. Some of my furniture is actually still being used in the house and in the barn there, but I am really tightening up my whole footprint here to experiment with a much simpler lifestyle. But I still really love what I'm doing here in the garden. It's my way of slowly building up the value offered to my tenants here, having my own ideas about landscaping and creating abundant food supply. I love these berries and fruits, even though I still haven't really got the chance to get everything pumping. I just love the idea of grazing on delicious, sweet and yummy berries. I'm always thinking about the view shafts and creating different sunny or shady areas, sheltered areas, because wind is the huge problem here, and until I can get more wind cover, things aren't really going to thrive. My first big cabin actually just blew apart in a windstorm, but here you can see that even though my main food area is staggering back from the neglect amidst all the drama and turmoil, these fruit trees are really taking off now. So I'm thinking about how to fill in the grove, the orchard. You can see the dam here is overgrown, which is not really too nice for the remaining ducks we have. We were getting a whole lot of duck eggs at one point, but now just 4 ducks left, probably not enjoying the fact that this dam is all clogged up with weeds. And in fact, for the first time in a very long time, the path that used to go around comes to an end, and the whole north side of the farm where Robin Haley's goats used to be, keeping that all down, is just a mass of nasty prickles and weeds that you can't even get past. And that's what it's becoming all like all around there. If you check out my game plan, my game strategy, my tree planting strategy, in what is likely to be a 10-year battle for trees to win over the weeds that are covering most of this property, I'm out here having my fun, battling these frontiers, and I've created, fighting against the weeds and pushing them back in the ultimate battle. Thinking like an army general, thinking dynamically about where trees are going to push back weeds, create privacy, shelter, soundproofing, nice, well-defined areas that work with nature, the sun and the wind, so my tenants and my plants and my animals can enjoy the space. I guess one of the big wins was that although the council stepped in and would not allow a consent for a kitchen in the barn, Robin Haley really did transform it completely, and I was actually blown away at the improvements that were made. But the council would not allow a consent for a kitchen in a second dwelling. However, an outdoor kitchen is okay, and that was my original concept in creating this outdoor area. But now we come to my poor, devastated and demolished cabin. This was of course the big excitement and big news when I was doing this report this time last year, investing into getting my first cabin up. But unfortunately, it was not particularly stable for such a rural, wind-swept area. Nor was it particularly well put together by the guy I roped into doing it. But to be fair, in addition, the fact that it was 8 meters long probably suggests it would be more stable if it was more compact. Once you lose one side of one of these things, the rest cannot support itself and down she goes. So this thing literally blew apart in some of those crazy storms over July, which blew over actually whole container stacks up in the Auckland boards. So my response was to drag it back over here with the tractor so that I could brace it against the barn. And in here we can get a little atrium going, maybe a deck here on the outside to get this view out away from the rest of the property, which is very private, expansive, and rein in my ambitions with this cabin a little to connect it actually with the barn here and make a little more space to develop the barn as more spacious for perhaps a couple. But once again, you can see the masses of weeds stretched all around these two oak trees that have now really grown up a bit. It's otherwise a total wilderness. Maybe you can see the huge pile of Robin Haley's rabbit hutches down there. It's basically become like the lost city out there. One day they will make contact with civilization once more, but for now I swear I would rather have a sea of weeds and prickles than have any more of these goats on the loose. Taking out my trees continued to be a huge problem. The goats will eat my trees if they get even the slightest chance, and that the only way to stop this from being a windswept paddock of weeds is to grow these trees. So sorry, no more goats. So my pond here is still very much a work in progress. Having dried up again, as I said last year, I have to accept that for now it is an ugly hole in the ground until nature can settle in. The yurt that I have planned, it never got started, but I am determined with these things. There was a version of the land port here at one stage, but at the extremes of the issues we were having here, it actually got cut down like full Honecker styles. So to simply take a stock of the situation at the back of the house here, we have got this lean-to set up as an outdoor shower. The land port has now just been left as some kind of concrete base to it, but it's pretty rough. And over here then we have this brickwork, which I couldn't really tell you the intent in mind when this was constructed, but given I love to work with what I've got in my hand, I could see it maybe becoming like a water pond, and some vines strung up here along the walkway that I eventually have planned. So I think, like the big pond, it will look good when it settles in a bit more to the environment, like it's been there a lot longer. It has a romantically ruined look to it, but it all helps to add character when you're working with just a paddock. That's what these videos are about. This was just once a paddock. But here you see the new water tank. So you see that although it was a challenging year, I definitely locked in some decent gains. Now, knowing we are going to have plenty of water, but I lost a lot of trees all up and down here to these goats running around, going wild. Then we did manage to get a bit more gravel down this drive. The old shed roof there got a paint job, and basically what happened was when this first cabin went up, before it consequently then blew down, I got very encouraged and confident enough to order a second cabin, but this time I did order the smaller 6x3 meter size, just to be a little more circumspect. I did tend towards the smaller cabin because I saw it as a starter. A big cabin is more to work with, but it's more to work on. So the smaller cabin works better to get a start in on things and keep it manageable. I mean, after all, at the end of the day, the big cabin, it blew over. So all through the dramas and comings and goings we had, I was picking up new info, new understanding, figuring out how to put together something that works. I had this container house here actually I found on Trade Me on the property, and it was really amazing, but I got into a whole messy dirty saga because, just as my dad warned me, the guy I was helping with it was not in a position to simply pick up his house and hit the road when the situation started turning bad. So in hindsight, surveying all the turmoil this year, surveying this bathroom that he left behind, obviously I ended up seeing the containers as a much sturdier structure than these cabins after going through 2 or 3 really bad storms, when obviously coming out and seeing my cabin had literally blown apart was a moment. I hadn't even considered it could get that bad, and that a container is not going to blow apart. And it was a huge reminder that in the last video I was talking about drought, and in this video I'm talking about fierce windstorms. So you don't know how climate change based catastrophes are going to be hitting you, but I certainly know that dealing with people who can become confrontational or uncommunicative in a crisis is something that is going to make your problems a great deal worse. When you're just trying to manage, you need solid shelter, but more so, you need solid people. This is why I am able to look at all the gains, the vast improvement in the barn, installing the new water tank, and getting this smaller cabin set up on its own little area here for those who are really authentically engaged with off-grid, minimalist lifestyle, and see that although I faced huge challenges and reaped massive amounts of knowledge and experience, even though it was a ceaselessly precarious and confronting series of incidents, I've locked in really important key parts of the setup I intend to build off and see more clearly the way I can purpose this place better to fit the way that I am trying to run things. Yes, it is great to have tenants who come in who want to add their own touches and develop their own contribution, but you have to be clear and also make a lot of allowances. Forgive them their trespasses. It was very difficult for me in that I certainly had to fight this year to move forward with what I saw as my goal for this place, but I gained a lot from what was contributed by Rob and Haley in the barn. Then the huge showdown I had with the council, and Aaron Marley's family setting up with basically next to nothing out in the corner end here and putting this cabin up so that now I have something established I can build up from in this space. So in the time I had to take out from the property when things were getting very confrontational, I learned a lot about the local area, and this got me expanding on some ideas I was caught on again in that last farm report video from this time last year, understanding the different use of space in a rural environment versus what I knew about urban environments, buildings, utilities, basics of living and lifestyle, which is integrating my ideas about where I'm at here and where I'm at locally, and also where I'm at moving into the city. where I'm at moving into Eastern Europe and Asia, where I'm moving around in a way which is much more loose, but at the same time still very much centered on how I'm developing this place, my place, to be responsive to a modern and sustainable lifestyle. So thanks for checking out this year's update, and I hope there's much more development news and info coming up for you next time when we catch up. Cheers!